Welcome to the Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon, crypto and thanks button in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. Now we are joined by Chocolate Sane, joining right in the middle of my intro, Refracted Curvature, Arwin, Brian's Logic, 10th Man Rising, Neil, and a whole bunch of people in Discord, so welcome one and all.
Hello.
Hello.
Good afternoon.
Hello. Good morning.
Hello, hello, hello. Let's get it on.
I'm glad you're all excited. We were arguing in the pre-show about what we were going to do, and one of my patrons specifically asked me if we can cover the Van Allen belts. So we did that in the pre-show. Obviously, being a member, you can catch up with that because we already covered it. But just to let you know, as you specifically emailed saying, "Can you cover the Van Allen belts?" Yeah, we can. They exist in a place that isn't real. They exist in Narnia. They beg the question of an hour and a sphere-shaped air that's not expanding into a vacuum, and have been arbitrarily assigned by some dude. Typically, they're just referred to as the area that would have killed the astronauts when they travelled through Narnia. But we don't tend to get to that here because of space being fake. Therefore, Van Allen belts, what of them? Anybody else got anything to add in regards to the Van Allen belts? Specifically for my Patreon.
That's my favorite region of space that apparently Mr. Orion, Trial by Fire from NASA, said that we need to figure out before we could send people to this region of space. We need to solve these problems. Apparently, he forgot. They didn't put him on to the briefing where supposedly we had 6 missions that went through this region of space between 69 and 72. If we're dipping our toes in Narnia. Shut up, Neil.
That don't count, Charlie, because they didn't know about it.
Yeah, but they didn't know about it where? In space. Okay, so equivalent to... Okay, back in the stories of The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe, when they traversed the portal that is the wardrobe, yeah, they had coats. They were already available to them. So, by equivalence, you've got the heat or cold being the Van Allen belt radiation, right? Now, they overcame the problem back in the 50s and 60s, let's just say, by putting on the coats that were available to them. Whereas in the current rhetoric, the door's there, the wardrobe's there, the portal works, Narnia's real, but there aren't any coats. So they have to overcome this problem of the coats that were there. I mean, they're furs. They kind of degraded and now they've gone and you can't get that technology back. It's very difficult to build up coats. But eventually they'll build up coats and then they'll go through the wardrobe into Narnia and all will be solved. But back in the 50s and 60s, I'm sure they didn't even know that they had a problem, but they just stuck the coats on and went through the wardrobe because they could see that it was snowing. Well, likewise, they just went into the region of space that isn't real back in the days of the moon landing, and they weren't concerned with something that had been arbitrarily ascribed to an area by Mr. Van Allen, because it hadn't been arbitrarily ascribed yet to the area of Narnia that they were going to traverse. That's the general long and short of the fake area called space that we have to concern ourselves with in regards to its radiation properties when the area is not real. Likewise, we don't have to worry about how cold it is in Narnia. Okie dokie.
I might just add one thing.
But that's a pretty bad continuity error, wouldn't you think? Like, even if we're just swimming around in Narnia right now within the story, that's a bad continuity error. When I first saw that, I was like, wait a minute, is this a joke? This can't be like really from NASA saying this. But it's like they say these things and it just glosses over people who even believe that these missions occurred. It's crazy.
Well, it may be a bad continuity error, but it is a bad debating point to bring up because you have to accept that you live on a sphere Earth in a vacuum before you can assert it.
Oh, no doubt. but I like the continuity of things. Things need to make sense, right? Like even if we're not getting into the debating points, things need to make sense. Your story needs to make sense if you're going to run around saying the same story.
That's not strictly
Right?
true.
Yeah.
Well,
That's not strictly true. So again, it just happens to be something I studied at college. So you're talking about the suspension of disbelief versus continuity errors and plot holes. Well, so long as the plot hole or continuity error does not destroy the suspension of disbelief, then it's actually tolerable. Massive plot holes are permissible in movies, so long as they don't ruin the immersion in the movie. Now, if you walk out the cinema and go, hang on a second, what happened to that character that was quite important to the plot early on? They just write that person out halfway through this, and you go, oh yeah, but did it matter in the movie? No. The plot hole's not relevant as you watched the movie. It didn't ruin your suspension of disbelief. Likewise, this disconnect between there being a Van Allen belt now that we've got to overcome to get into space, or Narnia, doesn't necessarily take the average Joe normally out of the suspension of disbelief that we already have traversed that area to get to the moon. They don't have a disconnect, so the suspension of disbelief is still intact for average normie because they've got a very short attention span.
no, there's
Yeah,
something else going on.
Hold on a
Hang
second. Wait, Brian,
Hang
before you
on.
go,
It's me toying. Go on, off you go.
go ahead then. Go ahead, Brian. I just wanted to say
No,
that.
go ahead. Go ahead.
Just wanted to say it doesn't matter because they believe it anyway. People have told me that if they didn't know about it, it's mind over matter. The radiation would not have affected them. That's what people say. So Nathan's right. Doesn't matter. They're still going to believe it.
Go ahead, Brian.
Yeah, the reason they believe it is because they always connect these things to what people believe is the real world. And how they make that connection is the ozone layer. So people believe there is this layer, now a layer of ozone that's protecting us from harmful radiation coming from the sun. This is what they have people believing. Now, the ozone layer does not exist. What does exist is ozone gas at 22 miles up, but there is no layer of ozone gas when you look into what happens, how it's created, what's needed to create it, and all the things that actually destroy it. And then you look into how much gas is up there per meter cubed at that height, right? So they tie it back into reality for people with things like the ozone layer, but the ozone layer in particular, because that's supposed to be a shield from all this radiation. And the Van Allen belts are part of this radiation monster. And that's what they do. And that's what it all comes back to. People believing that there is this ozone layer and that there might have been a hole in it. There was never a layer to begin with.
When did it come out, Brian? When did they start promoting this ozone layer? Like in schools and everything.
Well, they promote this
70s.
Ozone homogeneous layer of gases that have got nothing but inherent gaps between them. And then the gap in the gaps. They're just laughing at us.
Yeah.
You mean the same ones they call the greenhouse gases?
Yeah, greenhouse gases, right. The ones that contain us because of their greenhouse-like nature, because they're like glass. Yeah, well, load of old nonsense. Okay.
Let's go one step worse. Just one step worse. Where was the hole in the claimed ozone layer? What part of the world did this hole happen over?
I don't know. I remember
but they stopped.
Was it Antarctica?
Antarctica.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Nothing funny there.
Please. Yeah. Never mind.
Those poor penguins.
Nothing to see there.
Those poor penguins. Don't you laugh.
Yeah, but I stopped using aerosol cans back in the 80s, and I used to love hairspray, man. And I stopped using it because I was afraid that I was going to be a partaker in creating a hole even bigger, and we'd all die. It's fear.
Yes, it used to be.
The Al Gore scare you to death?
It was pre-Al Gore, but it was, back like Neil says, in the 80s, they literally had hairspray cans that were like, this one contains CFCs, this one's bad for the globe, and then, little pictures of ozones, little layers around globes and crosses through them, as in this is going to be bad for the ozone layer on hairspray cans.
But you hit the nail on the head there, Nathan, because they're always saying this thing and that thing is bad for the planet, bad for the globe. It's a model. They're telling people this is bad for the model we have you all believing in.
Right on.
That's what they do.
Meanwhile, what are they telling you not to use? A container with gas in it.
Okay, I just want to do another little sort of housekeeping, but sort of not. So I occasionally regale the audience with stories of how I go to other different random topics because I'm trying to get away from Flat Earth. Not because I don't like Flat Earth, but as my version of escapism. When you're watching Coronation Street, I'll be watching something about something totally random on YouTube. Anyway, one of the things that's less than random, I do actually have an interest in, is computing. And I went to a computer channel who was doing a live stream about computing. And in the comments or in the live stream chat was Shelley. Now, some of you may be familiar with Shelley, but she's a girl that comes along, comments on Flat Earth videos, obviously a Flat Earther, knows about space being fake. And when I joined the chat, she's in there telling the host, yeah, the rockets you're talking about, they just sent them out to the ocean. They just crashed in the ocean. Yeah, you just don't know anything. Stick to computer parts. She's probably laying into the guy from the live stream chat. I'm like, oh, hello. So I said, hello, Shelley. And she doesn't notice and carries on ranting at him a little bit. But then I thought, well, I'll pipe up at this point because he rattled off a few questions right at the end of his live stream. Now, I'm going to plug the guy because I actually like the guy's channel. So I will give the guy a proper plug, as in not say anything detrimental. He's just a normie as far as this subject matter is concerned. Okay, so just get that out of your head that this guy's in any way our enemy. He's not. He's just a normie. Right, but this is the channel is called Not an Apple Fan. Okay, that's the name of the channel. But as I say, right at the end of his live stream, he made several claims, and I did leave him a comment saying, do you want me to respond to these? Now, I didn't actually go back and check whether or not he did. I just photographed it and screenshot it rather, and thought, all right, I'll cover that onto the show, just because it's a few questions that I know that if I don't want to get my teeth into necessarily in his comment section, it's a useful little bit in the show, right? Now, again, I don't necessarily care if you let him know Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me. That's not necessarily appropriate in this instance because I don't want the guy to, suddenly, get bombarded by flat earthers when it's just a normie talking about tech stuff who happened to have a flat earther goading him in his comment section. And she did a good job. But it meant that he raised several claims, which I am going to go through in a minute. Well, actually, I'll just read out my comment to him. It might be a bit too small on screen. So, love your videos and live streams. The cynicism is outstanding. I come for the tech. However, outer space is fake. You can't have gas pressure without a container. If the sky was a vacuum, the gas we breathe would fill the space. In all seriousness, look up the second law of thermodynamics, aka entropy law. New paragraph. Would you like me to address your claims at the end of your show? I make video responses to these exact claims live daily. Like we are now, right? Okay, so I'm going to go through the questions in a sec. Obviously, I sign off and say, keep up the great work with the tech stuff. In other words, that's the kind of comment that when I'm encouraging you, the audience, to go and say, Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me, that's the kind of thing, if it was an absolutely ideal world, you'd do. You'd note something of positive nature in their videography as a YouTuber. Tell them that you like their video. Tell them that I sent you, a crap sandwich is how you describe it if you're going to give something negative. Well, it's the opposite. The negative bit is the only negative bit is that someone sent you. But that can be spun into positivity too if they don't know why I've sent you. So you just say, oh, I love your videos. Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me. He happened to respond to your excellent responses or your excellent opinions on gravity. That is all positive and won't get your comment deleted. And likewise, I don't want my comment to get deleted by this guy. So I start by saying, I love your videos and live streams. So he knows I'm a fan of Not an Apple Fan. Rather than just seeing me as a troll that's just there to talk about what I want to talk about rather than appreciating his hard work. So anyway, if you want to go and subscribe, by the way, if you like cynical looks at computer hardware where he's moaning about how terrible everything is, for the right reasons, he's well researched, then he's very good and amusing to watch. There we go. So check out Not an Apple Fan if you so desire. But I want the panel, or indeed the Discord server if they choose to, after I shout out this super chat, to respond to the questions that he put forth, or claims that he put forth towards the end of his last live stream, which was yesterday evening, maybe 18 hours ago. Anyway, Godzilla37 sent a super chat, so I'll just read that out just quickly, and then we'll move back to this guy. When tree huggers, in quotes, start running around putting butt plugs into cows to save the planet, right then, you know it's not worth saving. What, the cow, the planet, the tree hugger? You're going to have to be more specific with that. But thank you for the super chat. Let's talk about butt plugs in the future super chat. So Thank you very much. Okie dokie.
He's talking about
He's talking
AOC
about the
that wanted to
overall
ban cows.
Say one more time. Is that the book?
He's talking about AOC, the Democrat Puerto Rican lady from New York, the bartender. One of her things on the Green Deal was that they wanted to get to ban cows because the fart pollution.
Oh, yes, I do
well-
vaguely remember that. Yes.
Yeah, please ban cow farting.
Yeah, well, they produce a huge amount of methane, but it's like, well, so what? What are you going to do next? Ban algae? You're like, what? I don't know. Producing gases is what a lot of organisms do. It's just the way it is. It's not a problem. Unless you make it one, and then you can tax it. Anyway. Okay, right. Let's go through these questions then. So these are the claims that this particular guy, the not an Apple fan guy, put forth towards the end of his live stream in response to being goaded by Shelley. Okay, so Earth isn't flat. We have hills. Who wants to tackle that?
No hills.
Flat's not a shape.
Thinking.
Who said that? You said flat's not a shape.
Ball game.
Okay, not relevant to the question, but still very true.
Yep.
His
Just take it
assertion is
home,
that because we
guys.
have hills and valleys, that is to say the undulations in the, I was going to say topology, but it's topography, are his assertion that we don't have an overall flat baseline that we measure and reference to. That's his assertion. We have hills, therefore Earth's not flat.
Well,
The
Bev's
baseline- the
whiteboard,
Brian, go first. Go ahead, Brian.
Bev's whiteboard is flat, but it's not 2D. Kind of like your kitchen table and your kitchen floor and your sitting room floor. They're all flat, but they're not 2D. But flat is a description and not a shape, as that lad just said. So it's not flat is not a geometric claim. It's a description of the overall.
Nathan gave the best description when he did the bookshelf. Remember the bookshelf you laid out, Nathan?
No, but
don't remember.
in this regard, I don't want to reference stuff that's not mainstream. So, because it's a response that someone may actually go and tell him we did a response to your claims at the end of the live stream. In which case, I want to keep it concise. What Brian's trying to talk about is if you have a whiteboard and you run your hands over it, it is perfectly flat. However, if you get down to the microscopic level, there are undulations, imperfections, not flat. So to one extent, yeah, you're right. If you take into account the hills and valleys, no, Earth isn't flat. If you look at the oceans, no, they've got waves on them. It's not perfectly flat. You can have certain instances where you can have the sea like a mill pond, and it is flat. Water finds and maintains level. So if it's flat, it's flat. But with the exceptions of those, no, the guy's right. Earth isn't perfectly flat. But as an aspect, we reference those hills and valleys in terms of their height or depth with reference to zero. And that zero is a flat baseline that you're referencing the heights or depths of the hills or valleys against. So as an overall topology, you can reference how high that mountain is when you say Earth isn't flat, because overall you've got a flat zero line to reference it to. That's a flat Earth that you'll give in reference to how high the mountain is when you're saying it's not flat. Well, how high do you say the mountain is compared to what? The flat baseline it's referenced against.
But Nathan, you're falling into the trap because you're going in to give a geometric explanation for something that's not a geometric claim. Flat is a description. The way of describing my table is flat. I can rub my hand across it and it feels smooth. But when I put a microscope on it, it's not going to be smooth. It's going to have undulations. Flat is a description. You don't need to go in to tell them about how elevations are from sea level to sea level. It means sea level is flat. You don't need to do all that because what means sea level is horizontal. That's what it is. The horizontal baseline we take elevations from. Horizontal is a geometric plane, but flat is not. But horizontal is flat.
Sure, but I'm
Flat
dumbing
is a
this. You're right at a more advanced level, but I'm trying to dumb this down to the point of somebody who's never been exposed to this and just goes, "I know it's a sphere. I've been taught it at school. You're dumb. You're a flat earther." That's the level we're dealing with.
Yeah, because if they apply their own standards, then they can't say it's a sphere because it's got undulations in it. That's not
Exactly.
a sphere.
Yeah, okay, I can
Yeah,
give
it's-
that as a
Yeah, I was
reference.
kinda
Okay,
gonna
no, I can give it as a comparison. So Neil deGrasse Tyson would hold up a ball metaphorically and say, if you ran your hands over the surface of this bowling ball, metaphorically, it would be perfectly smooth. But at the microscopic level, it would be comparable to the hills and valleys that we have on planet Earth, when he's assuming Earth's a spherical surface. But overall, the topology is a perfectly smooth sphere. He then goes on to describe at a much more grand scale, but still almost insignificant compared to the ball he's actually holding when he makes the example, metaphorically. He says that it's chubbier at the bottom. Now, lots of people take that out of context to mean that he literally means it's physically bigger, which he is saying, and he does mean, but he's also contextualizing it by saying it's comparable to the bowling ball being slightly chubbier at the bottom. If you hold it, it's still, as far as you're concerned, perfectly spherical and perfectly smooth, but when you zoom in like you would on a comparatively scaled globe Earth, you have hills and mountains and valleys and rivers, and they would be comparable to the cracks and undulations at a microscopic level on a bowling ball. So he's saying smooth is comparable at the scale of a bowling ball compared to Earth. Earth, if you ran your hands over it, if you were the size of a giant and Earth was the size of a bowling ball, you wouldn't feel any of the mountains or valleys. It would feel perfectly smooth to you, is what he's saying. Now, if you then roll that out flat, comparatively, when Brian says, no, flat's just a description as opposed to a geometric aspect, yeah, we can get advanced with this guy, but we'll lose him immediately. But when you're describing that, there's no justification to explain how flat something is when you're describing it as such. But when you talk about hills and mountains, you're into geometric reference points. That's flat. Your Earth is flat when you're telling us how high things are.
Sorry,
I
could
always
you just
find this to be a
say that it's a
Sorry,
straw man
go ahead.
argument anyway?
It is, but as a normie, sometimes they accidentally stumble across fairly debatable and pertinent points in regards to how things are described. And Brian's absolutely spot on. That's why I've not told him he's wrong. I've said, no, I'm trying to dumb it down. Brian's absolutely right. Is it a straw man? It is a straw man if you're trying to make the conclusion which he didn't. Therefore, Earth's a sphere. He implied it, and we're pulling it apart on that basis of its straw man nature. So yes, you're right.
But look how they run real quick to that, right? So the first thing they'll say, oh, it's not flat because there's hills and mountains and stuff. It's like, okay, shouldn't you be saying it's not flat because there's all this curvature and stuff instead of the hills and mountains that you're talking about? Where's the curvature?
Well, in the sky.
Don't
So
point to
his
that.
next claim, I've seen the moon, it's a sphere. Again, no formalization of the fallacy. But yes, you can then pull it apart based on its fallacious nature, but we're just going to pull it apart based on its normie claim. As in, I understand that because I look up at the spherical nature of the moon, Earth is a sphere. That's the claim. Although he hasn't directly said that. The actual quote is, I've seen the moon, it's a sphere.
But if you carry that fallacious logic on to its natural conclusion, you can't say it's a sphere either. That's what I was trying to point out is if you're going to say that the Earth's not flat because it has hills and valleys, you can't say it's a sphere now because it has hills and valleys.
What has hills and
I
valleys?
said that same thing a while back.
Yeah, you're saying that you can't then say, okay, well, Earth's a sphere. Well, no, you can't say it's a sphere because it's blah, 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 blah. And they go, yeah, okay, well, it's no bloke spheroid with undulations. All right, well, what's wrong with it being a flat plane with undulations? Because it's saying it's flat. We're talking about Dumbos here.
Well, I just like to back up Chocolate because I was going to jump in there, but Chocolate beat me to it. That this would be progress because normally at one time, a normie, sorry for the comparison, linguistic comparison, but normally a normie person would say, we know there's curvature, we know this, we know that. But this lad's first response was, we have hills. That means there's not the same confidence amongst the everyday people, maybe in the world, that the Earth is a globe. If you know what I mean, because his first response, exactly, Chocolate, was not, we have curvature. That wasn't his first response.
Exactly. That's what you would think would be the first thing they would point out. Like, oh, no, it's not flat. It's curved. Thank you. But no, they don't do that. They point at things that you can point at, like hills and mountains. Yeah, it's not flat because we got hills and mountains. Yeah, okay, thanks. Later on, love for you to tell me how you measured those hills and mountains. Against what did you make that reference to again? Love to know. What's up, Tim?
Hey, how you doing? When it's a thought experiment and it only exists in the maths and you can't see it and it's below sea surface, geometric horizon marked with an X that no one's ever seen, what can they say?
That was like a four-piece
than that.
combo right there.
You want to hear a
It's
bit of
worse
it?
than that because, sorry.
I was just going to say, would you like to hear a little bit of it so you can actually, get a gauge of how the tone is? Because then sometimes your venom is a bit dissolved when you hear the actual tone of the person that's making the claims. Anyway,
Yeah,
so-
that's a good idea.
Thing moves away from each other.
Wow,
We
that's
don't know
loud.
why, and we don't know what. And that's all left to somebody who's smarter than me to explain, right? But here on Earth, the way everything works is everything's pulled towards the center of mass. This is why it works. This is how it works, right? This is how gravity works. If I move towards another, cosmic object that is more massive than the Earth, or begins to gain more attraction to me than the Earth does, I will be pulled towards its center of mass. This is the way gravity works, right?
Okay, so I might as well. This is the point that about where I came in, and I start pointing out how wrong he is in the chat. So in the chat, I point out that he's 108 years out of date in this regard. I won't read out my comments from the chat, but that's what I was.
It's
talking
not
about.
a theory.
He's a
guys,
normie,
I swear
normie.
to God, you just make this shit like people believe that there was a dude 2,000 years ago who could raise the dead, turn water into wine, walk on water, make the loaves into fishes, and all this shit, right? Yeah, but yet they don't believe that gravity exists. Like,
We don't believe that gravity exists. Okay, so as I
What
told,
happened?
To believe.
go ahead.
I'm just saying it's a believe disbelieve situation, is it? Not a proof of existence situation. With gravity. You know what I mean? We don't believe. So it's a believe disbelieve. It's not a proof, no proof situation. It's not scientifically proven or not scientifically proven. It's a believe disbelieve. Which one is it? Because he's literally giving himself away there with his own words. He's telling you that he has this belief that he has no evidence for.
Sure. Well, he's given away his general high school understanding of mass attracting mass, right? Because that's where he's going to be. He's going to be taught that as a normally, high school graduate. So we can forgive him for the misapprehensions that he has been taught of this force of gravity that's pulling all the things to the center of the sphere Earth, he assumes, right? So we can forgive him for thinking that and just correct him and say, no, the modern gravity is the bending of a fourth dimensional space-time developed by Einstein in a geometry known as pseudo-Riemannian force space. That's length, breadth, depth, and time. The time being bent, time not being something that you can physically experience, it's a concept, but that time that's a dimension that you won't ever experience, being bent as a result of the uneven distribution of mass causing the bending of space-time. That's gravity in the current context. It's not some force pulling things to the center of Earth. Not for 108 years. That was Newtonian gravity that you were taught at a basic high school level, so that you think things are all going down, go boom, boom because of gravity. They're not. Some things go up. Not all things are falling to the ground at 9.8 meters per second. Gas expands in all direction. That's why I told him from the chat to look up the second law of thermodynamics. That's entropy law. Not all things go down. That's weight. Yeah, hijacking weight and calling it gravity, that's all you're experiencing because that's your high school education and what it's told you, which is fair enough. You've just been deceived. Go ahead, whoever that was.
Funny enough, look what he compares that to. What does he say? Oh, people believe that 2,000 years ago, a guy walked on water and turned water to wine and all this other stuff, but they don't believe in gravity. Oh, really? We flipped that on him. People tell us that 2,000 years ago, some guy took some sticks in the ground, measured some angles off shadow, and supposedly came up with radius. That's funny that people believe that, huh?
Well, you can just ask this guy as a normie to justify his own belief. It's like, okay, you're telling us that comparative to Jesus, we should believe in bending space-time. Okay, no worries. I'll believe it. Show me time, and then show me you bending it as a dimension. If you can show me the concept of the fourth dimension in physical terms, because that's what's going to be bent in pseudo-Riemannian force-space geometry made by Einstein, not 108 years out of date mass attracting mass, as you assert, with your high school education of gravity, that's wrong, and out of date by 108 years. So you need to show us time, then show it bending, then we'll believe as you believe in the wrong thing that's 108 years out of date, just so you know. Are we all clear? Shouting out Godzilla 37, sitting on a spinning wet ball rocket that came like all things from nothing, then laughing at what others believe. Projection much? Well, yeah, ignorance often makes people project. Yes. Thank you for the super chat.
Irony of it using liberty, using religion
Does he
as a
accept?
talking point.
Hold on, 10th. Go ahead, ball game.
I said just the irony of his argument using religion to make his point. His belief is a religion.
Irony, right? The irony is rich in that one, yes.
Yeah, the globe Earth is a religion. It's been derived from the Roman Catholic Church's need to know when Easter is in terms of the orbital motions that we'll get onto in a minute. Anyway, did you want to hear the other questions?
Well, can I finish?
Yeah, go ahead, 10th. Sorry, I forgot.
Yeah. So does he believe that Henry VIII existed? Does he believe that George Washington existed? Does he believe that people in history where we have evidence by eyewitness testimony of their existence, does he believe that or does he know that?
Different standard. Historical standards are different, but yeah. I see
Okay.
your point.
So the eyewitnesses said they saw Jesus walk on water. So now we have to take that standard and check out the credibility of the eyewitnesses and all the other miracles that Jesus did. All we're asking for from this guy right now, right in front of us, show us curvature and this show will end. They can't show us curvature for this show to end.
Well, no, that's not true. Perfect segue to this next question that I asked him, which is, or next claim he made, I should say. I've seen the curve from an aeroplane. Let's not just. There's only a couple.
I would question that right away because he'd have to test it. Yeah, because I've been on an airplane higher than 40,000 feet, and I've never seen the curve from any airplane. I've flown a lot, and so have you. You would go to the back of the plane, look through a bigger window, try to see it, and you say, "Oh, I'm not high enough." So now it's your testimony against his testimony.
Well, it wouldn't be no, because I would establish what Earth curve was first. So as far as he is concerned, the Earth curve is represented by what he sees in the form of a bending horizon. So as far as he is concerned, the horizon, the thing that's been used for the namesake, for the defining feature of horizontal, he thinks the horizon bends at altitude. Okay, that's what his claim is. Now, the horizon does not bend at altitude, even if you're a globe-believing muppet. There are plenty of examples, again, using Neil deGrasse Tyson as my citation against this claim that globe believers should or could assert that they see Earth curve from an aeroplane. According to Neil deGrasse Tyson, you can't see Earth curve from the ISS, merely fisheye lenses. The mathematics would be akin to a fly or ant 3 millimeters above a beach ball. Well, the ant in his example wouldn't see the curve of the Earth from 3 millimeters above the beach ball. That's referencing the ISS. That stuff is flat. End quote. Neil deGrasse Tyson.
Just so he,
Go on,
just
Chocolate.
so he understands, that would be about 120,000 feet that he's talking about.
Neil deGrasse Tyson is, yes. Neil deGrasse Tyson's not talking about 30, 40,000 feet in an airliner. He's talking about 128,000 feet in something much higher, not seeing Earth curve, because it's not feasible to see Earth curve from an airliner. But Earth curve, I'm nearly there. Earth curve isn't the horizon. We've debunked that. The horizon is what you think is a physical edge for boats to fall over. The edge of Earth that boats are falling over and it's blocking your view of the bottom of them. Or buildings are obscured by the edge that they're behind. Yeah? So blocked by a hill getting in the way at the horizon is his claim. We've debunked the horizon as Earth curve. We only have one horizon. And the horizon in the begging the question proof of nothing perspective hijacking Earth curve mathematics, that's your geometry for your Earth curve hill getting in the way, is at 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height in feet in your maths. And we've debunked that. Black Swan. The geometric horizon is not Earth curve. It's not a hill getting in the way of anything. It's not there for boats to fall over because you reify the horizon into Earth curve and then claim that it's bending from 40,000 feet. That's absurd, incorrect, and not a claim that a globe would make. Further to that, the horizon's not Earth curve. We debunked it in 2020 as being a physical limitation to your view. It isn't. The horizon's not Earth curve.
Well, what I would say about all that is no. And why I would say no is a couple of reasons. Number one, he's only making the claim that he has seen or can see or would be able to see or call from an airplane. There's nothing to back that up. Nobody has ever seen something that doesn't exist from an airplane window. You can't see it because it doesn't exist. Our curve exists only in the maths. Only in the maths. Because even their maths, right? And this is, I don't see that, all that stuff about Neil deGrasse Tyson, I'll get to that in a second. Even their maths is horizontal maths that they add R to. It's not, you can do all the maths horizontally without the R. All the distances to their horizon can be given, can be shown horizontally without the R. You can add the R in and that'll turn that horizontal distance into an arc length. Right? Neil deGrasse Tyson saying you won't ever see our curve is him saying you'll never see it because it's not there. That's what he's saying. Because we're told that boats are going over our curve 3 miles away from a 6-foot observer. So him saying you can't see our curve is a complete contradiction to his friend who, what's his name, the science guy fella from NASA, who tries to tell people and tell children and show people with a model how the boat goes over our curve 3 miles away. It doesn't. None of that happens. You won't see our curve, not because you can't go high enough, because it's not there to see. That's the reason.
Okay, but he thinks. Okay, stop. But he thinks the horizon is Earth curve. Therefore, he thinks he's seeing the horizon. Therefore, he's seeing Earth curve. And when he's at height, he thinks he's seeing it bending. So, yeah, what Brian's saying is, in geometric terms, Earth curve exists below surface level in geometry. It's a tangent point below the surface level. That's horizontal, established with a horizon. So when you say the Earth curve is something you see when you look at the horizon, it isn't. In geometric terms, it's below surface level. It's a hill falling away from you 8 inches per mile squared, which is measurable, and what they claim is proving Earth curve when they say boats fall over it. That's the Earth curve edge at the horizon, that they also simultaneously imply mathematics that ignores perspective to assert that when a building or boat gets too small to see, or your angle is too limited against the deck, that's an Earth curve hill blocking your view of it, or a boat falling over an Earth curve edge. Now, those assertions require an understanding of the mathematics and the understanding for the necessity for that Earth curve to exist below surface level, and it be a second horizon in the maths, marked with an X, labelled horizon at the tangent point, the hill getting in the way, labelled horizon, below surface level. Now, we only have one horizon, and the horizon in that mathematics is not the horizon we see. The horizon we see, that limitation to your view, has nothing to do with an Earth curve below that surface level that's establishing horizontal. For all your references to how high or low the mountains are on the non-flat Earth, yeah, they're all referenced to sea level for a reason, because it's a flat plane that gives you the horizontal baseline, the surface level. And the Earth curve geometry for maths for a hill that's got boats falling over it is below that. Doesn't exist beyond the maths. The horizon's not Earth curve. It certainly isn't bending at 40,000 feet, but that claim is a z-axis claim. The claim that he's making is I can see curvature in the z-axis from my left of peripheral vision to right of peripheral vision. That's where he thinks he can see a curve. Now, that's not the curve that Neil deGrasse Tyson is saying should be visible. Neil deGrasse Tyson, to paraphrase, is saying you shouldn't see z-axis curvature in your peripheral vision, even at 125,000 feet. You wouldn't see it. That doesn't alter that the geometry of the obstruction of the things in the distance beyond the horizon is limited at 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height in feet as per Earth curve geometry. Now, that's not Neil deGrasse Tyson's defeat of that argument. He's merely talking about the left to right z-axis not bending at altitude, in line with this guy's claim that the curve does become visible from an airliner, according to him. Well, he's wrong, even in the globe claim, but we've debunked the horizon as Earth curve either way. Doesn't matter if you can or can't see z-axis curve from left to right out your plane window, when the horizon is an Earth curve, because that geometric claim exists below surface level.
He's even adding on to that. He's even adding on to that the fact that the wide angle lens that supposedly Felix Baumgartner had is there to basically bend horizontal lines, right? So it's the same thing with the supposed curvature you think people are seeing from airplanes. Because you got to remember, even if you think you're seeing curvature from an airplane, what are you looking through? You're looking through curved glass in any airplane, window, canopy, any of that. You're looking through curved glass. So yeah, you might get a hint of some curvature, but that doesn't mean that's the measured curvature of the Earth, because there is none. Like your man said, like it's the continuity error, right? You can't tell us that you can see curvature from 30, 40,000 feet where planes usually fly, while your priest, smoking the grass Tyson, tells us we can't see it from 120,000 feet. That's a continuity error in your story. So
Hey,
that
some
makes
guy
you curious. And jeez.
Sorry, but I didn't know. You stop. Jeez, man. Come on.
Go ahead, Chocolate.
Just, I'm sorry, mate.
I'm done. I'm done. I just, if he happens to listen to this, I want, like, maybe if he's curious enough to go look into that. Ask yourself why you're saying that you can see air curvature from a plane, but then the same people that are like their job is to run around and teach people about this stuff are telling everybody that you can't. Very simple. I'm done.
Well, all you'd have to do is go on, Neil. Sorry.
I think it's Neil.
So I'm just saying I got a couple of words on a curve. It's only take 2 minutes.
Yeah, go ahead, One Deck.
Yeah. It's called the invisible dream. How do you measure an invisible curve? Because that's how they measured the Earth. The curve of the Earth that's never been seen, except CGI, if you know what I mean. The curve of the Earth has never been. The curve of the Earth not yet seen. The curve of the Earth, the invisible dream.
Very good. Thank you very much.
I was just going to say, somebody came in Ballbusters claiming they were on the vomit comet. And the guy said he was leaning more towards flat because he couldn't see any curves. But Nathan exposed him to be a liar anyway. So
Well, actually,
it
that's
don't count.
Hold on, that's not strictly true. So after the fact, somebody, Quantum Eraser, found pictures that did have windows in. Now, they were being used in that instance to do specific, let's just call them observations, but they were at a level that was very different to the level of the Vomit Comet that's got zero-G, tourist trips that doesn't have windows. So there are examples that do have windows in them.
Yeah, but just to talk about that, if you look at those photographs, those windows are small rectangular windows and they're at different elevations. So you don't have a line of windows to reference like you do with a normal airplane windows. You don't have this horizontal line of windows to reference. It's like small windows at different elevations. So it depends on how much you're floating up or down. Well, not really floating, how much you're controlled falling, you know what I mean? And how much you can see out those windows. As one window might show you an angle down the way, another window will show you an angle up the way, but you won't see horizontally out. And that's what I think is the point of them. So even though there's windows, they still mess up your frame of reference. That's the point. And that guy said afterwards that it was from the cockpit he saw that there was no curvature because his uncle flies or drives the plane. So he said,
in other words, what he's saying is when I called him out, he tried to get around it with some other bullshit story.
Yeah.
Anyway, we're off on a segue. I want to ask the rest of the questions. So there's only one left actually. So I've seen the curve from a plane. We've covered. I've seen the sun go behind a curve.
I have something to add to that.
Well, I'll just add it in so that the last question gets addressed regardless. So the last claim is the same as the last one anyway. I've seen the sun go behind a physical geometric limitation called Earth curve. He actually says I've seen the sun go behind the curve of the Earth. Same claim.
Yeah. Okay, I'll take that apart. What he needs to do is go to Metabunk curve calculator. That's the one to go to. That's the correct one. And what you will see there is a thing called an effective radius, which gives you a refracted horizon. That is refracted in Metabunk to show it as a standard amount of 7/6 refraction. Now, the guy probably won't understand all this, but he will see when he goes there That is the whole point of the refracted horizon. That is what you will always see. You will never see the globe's geometric horizon. You will always see something over 6R. It'll never be lower than 7 over 6R, and there is no limit to how much over 6R it can go, right? Because
Ryan, I got a question.
just 1 second, Chuck. Just maybe just
Yeah,
finish
yeah,
this.
sorry,
Just,
sorry.
Right. So what that guy has to realize is even within the globe Earth claims, the globe model claims, or claims concerning the globe model, there is no such thing as you seeing a physical geometric horizon. It won't be there and doesn't exist. You can never see it. Nobody has ever seen it. It's mathematical only. Now, the second thing, just before chocolate comes in, is the sun. When you see the sun at your horizon, you're not seeing the sun. This is official. You're seeing what's called the sun mirage in the morning and in the evening on your sea horizon. What you're seeing is the meeting of two optical phenomenon, not a physical sun going down behind a physical geometric horizon. Officially, they admit that that's not what you're seeing. Okay, go on, chocolate. Sorry.
Chocolate.
So my question to you was, when you were describing the metabunk, you said effective radius. What's the effective radius? Why wouldn't it just be the radius?
Well, the effective radius is the least amount of radius they have to claim that you will experience. You will never experience their 3,959 mile claimed geometric radius. You will only ever experience the closest to that you'll ever get is their 4,618.83 mile effective radius, and it goes up from there. Like technically, you'd never even see that. It goes up from there. So you're going. The radius gets bigger and bigger and bigger. So the black swan example photograph, for instance, is I think it's 46.44 times the size of the circumference. If you duplicated the globe Earth's circumference of 24,856 miles, it's something like 44 or 46.66 times the size of that circumference. So they have to duplicate the globe Earth over, like heading for 50 times to just explain you seeing an horizon behind an oil rig. And that's not even bringing curvature into it. That's just giving you a distance to the horizon, not a curved distance, just a distance.
Okie dokie. So I think we've covered all of that. Yeah, we debunked Earth curve. Space is fake. You can't have gas pressure without a container. All of the trips and all of the claims for the sphere Earth are based in a sky vacuum, and we can debunk it with entropy law. The claim of globe Earth comes from a flat plane measurement of elevation angle measurements to give you all of the latitude lines on all of the different models. They're all derived from angles to stars off a flat plane. The flat plane is described in the elevations of all of the different topography, i.e. reference to sea level. Sea level itself implies that it's level. We build level. We navigate level. Earth is flat. The globe model has been derived from the Roman Catholic Church. It's just a religious belief. It's a model. It's not the way the world actually works or is measured or is built upon. That's flat. And the claim of Earth curve has come from the differential between two horizontal planes at eye level and surface level. And that differential as you raise in altitude can be back calculated to give you the geometry of a sphere Earth. Likewise, the claim matches nicely if you exclude perspective from a view when you have it in orthographic representation. That would be to say you look at the side of your own head, you look at the target you're looking at, and you look at the Earth curve as though it's a hill blocking your view for boats to fall over, all seen simultaneously, side on. That excludes all aspects of perspective. Therefore, when things get too small to see, they claim to go over Earth curve. Yeah, well, that's an orthographic representation that we debunked in about 2016. So all of this crap, all of the assertions, Earth curve's not the horizon, we don't exist in a vacuum, all of the trips to the moon are fake as they can come, not because we need to debunk whether the shadows are right in the stage that they filmed it on, but because the area that they had to travel through was a second law of thermodynamics violation sky vacuum. Gas fills vacuums. We breathe high-pressure gas. Therefore, we must be contained, and therefore there are no trips to the moon in Narnia, because the space vacuum is a complete lie. We must be contained to achieve gas pressure here. Gravity's not a force pulling gas go down, go boom boom. Your farts fill the availability of space. Next time you think of how your fart behaves, it ain't going down with gravity, is it? Yeah? I'm appealing to you at the level that you would expect to be appealed to, given that you're a genuine normie. So if you can understand how a fart behaves, you can understand that it ain't making puddles because of gravity. It expands to fill the volume, like all gases, and they would fill the low pressure of space instantaneously. That's how gas behaves. High pressure to low pressure, it's called entropy. Very simple concept that most people could understand if explained to them. Yeah? Your hot goes to cold. It's an irreversible effect. Your high pressure goes to low pressure. It's an irreversible effect. What's that? The sky vacuum you believe in? That's a very low pressure you're talking about. Yeah, the high pressure gas we're breathing would vacate into that immediately. We'd all be dead. We'd be at 10 to the minus 17 torr at sea level in your sky vacuum-based heliocentric world of nonsense that's based on measurements taken from a flat plane that we actually live on. Do you want to listen to the rest of this? Might as well.
I got a comment.
An observable.
Go on.
Yeah. See, it's all programming, and we run into it all the time. Just watch sporting events, and they'll say, oh, gravity did the rest. Meaning what? Well, when the baseball was hit by the bat, then gravity finished it off. Or a golf ball, when it goes into a hole, gravity does the rest. Okay. He brought up gravity. Okay. And he said that if he was near a larger mass, basically, then he would go compelled to go that direction. But because he's on Earth, he's going down towards the center. Okay. But what about a helium balloon? Why isn't the helium balloon going down to the center with you? I mean, it's so easy to break the programming with these questions.
Sometimes you got to treat that like the 90s. Don't say helium balloon.
Yeah. So exactly, Chopper. So we've got the helium balloon that just destroys what he just said. Then we got curvature, but you can't ever see it. But we got program for it. And then we've got Earth rotation, which no one experiences or sees. And we can prove with a drone going up that it's the luminaries that are moving, not the Earth. But yet the programming is so great, they're just like robots saying it over and over and over again until you ask them to think critically. And this is where cogdis comes in. And this is the problem.
Okay, right, let's hear a little bit more of we don't often get covering normies. And again, I don't want the commenters to go over and give him vitriol. Number one, I like the guy. Number two, I like his content. Number three, he's just a normie who's been goaded by a flat earth. So shout out to you, Shelley. I totally appreciate why you were doing what you were doing. If he's talking nonsense, it's almost obligatory. You've got to correct him. So, I totally get it.
But
space is real.
Life. Yeah, or the fat space is real. When the sun goes down, you can look up and see space, right? What is the sky? A big fabric that somebody pokes holes in? Like what?
So he's got a vague idea.
People like to believe.
He's saying it's a fabric. Sun goes down, you can see black. That's space. So when the sun goes down, you can see vacuum. Right? So you're still breathing in and out, but you're looking at a black bit that's a vast vacuum. All right. Know much about how vacuums behave next to gas pressure? I'm pretty sure that in every instance of every vacuum you'll ever see ever, if you introduce a high pressure gas next to it, it'll just immediately fill the volume. And you think that when the sun goes down, you see a 10 to the minus 17 torr vacuum above your head? I see. How interesting. Is that because you're under the misapprehension that gas go down, go boom boom with gravity? When it's not a force, it's a bending fourth dimensional fabric of time? Really? You think time, the fourth dimension, because you've got some notion of gravity being incorrect when you said it was a force earlier, is actually a fabric? I see. Maybe you could show us this time fabric. Can you do that so we can believe as you believe in gravity? Because we don't. We know it's just a fabric. A pseudo-geometry made up by Einstein. A pseudo-geometry with a made-up fourth dimension that he calls time. Now, I can experience length, breadth, and depth very easily. As for experiencing the dimension of time, definitely not. That's our description. How things progress derived from movements of the celestial items to give us a concept with numbers. That's not a dimension. But Einstein made it into one and then said mass bends it. That's what gravity is. So you can bend time with mass. Okay? Show me. And then show me how that makes gas go down, go boom boom, and form puddles. It doesn't. Yeah, gravity's nonsense.
Well,
Go on, John.
If you reify the entropy into the arrow of time, and you take that literally, and then you aim that arrow down, can you come up with a formula of like 9.8 meters per second because you're using time twice to judge distance?
Yes, you can.
Or speed?
Yes, you can. Does that mean that gas go down, go boom, boom, 9.8 meters per second? This guy looks like he farts a lot in that room. I'm pretty certain that his farts don't go down, go boom, boom, 9.8 meters per second. They expand in all directions to fill the volume, just like every other gas does, because that's what gas does.
Well, if he was a proper...
Go on, John.
Yeah, John.
I was going to say, if he was a proper heliocentrist, he would have to be saying the Earth is rising up to overtake that fart at 9.8 meters per second.
The net effect being that gas go down, go boom, boom as the Earth goes up at 9.8 meters a second. In either event, you've got the gas pooling because the ground is coming up to meet it. In the Einsteinian version of gas go down, go boom, boom, ground going up 9.8 meters per second squared. Therefore, gas pooling at the bottom of the ground. We don't experience that. No matter which way you dice it, gas expands in all directions to fill whatever availability of volume it has in line with entropic law. That's what gas does. Oh, except if you've got a sky vacuum belief, then the night comes and suddenly there's a vacuum above your head with gas not filling it. Because, it doesn't apply to the model. That's the law of nature known as entropy. Doesn't apply to the globe religion model. Doesn't apply. Because gas would fill the space and we'd all be dead in that model. That's the sphere model that people think they're standing on when they've got a belief they were indoctrinated with that defies entropy law. Meanwhile, Earth's flat and space is fake.
How would we ever smell farts if gas went down?
Believe in magic, but then when it comes to real fact, they don't believe in it.
We would constantly smell
genuinely
it.
don't know what some people are out smoking.
So his example is to say people believe in magic.
Bigger master, bigger pull. True story.
But we're not believing in magic? No, magic is fourth dimensional space-time bending.
How to troll flat earthers. If Earth is flat, why are there hills and mountains? So true, man. So true.
What, hills and mountains that are measured with respect to the zero reference that's flat? Like sea level. Level not curved. It's reference to that. Yeah, we covered that.
Look up.
It's not like he doesn't have the
Again, why not point to the curvature that you don't got? Why point to the hills and the mountains, things that we all see? This doesn't make sense.
A reference to level. Go on, John.
Exactly.
Is that a picture of his extended family over his right shoulder?
I can't really see it in this quality.
Wait, you're looking for his sister?
It's not only about that, man. It's observable. Like the fucking moon, a big thing floating in the sky is a fucking sphere, right? You can see it. It's there. It's a sphere.
Someone said you can actually bounce a laser off the reflector they left on them.
Okay.
He said it's there. It's a sphere.
Hold on. Who wants to potentially attack libration in this discussion? Because he's saying the moon is spherical. And there is an argument that can be made for it being spherical. Would you not agree? Unless you're unaware of libration.
Well, what I would say about it is the moon being spherical and being in the sky has no bearing on the shape or description of the Earth. What has that got to do with anything? The moon being a sphere and in the sky, or not being a sphere and not doing whatever, has nothing got to do with how we observe and experience Earth. And
no, wrong. Earth. No, Brian. If I'm in a forest and I look around and everything around me is a tree, I am a tree.
No, but that's because they put us in a heliocentric model, a solar system where everything is spheres. That's the indoctrination.
Right. Yeah. What he means when he says, I know the moon's spherical, is I assume Earth is spherical and the moon is in an orbital motion around us as a sphere. Therefore, I can infer that by simply looking at the moon and saying that is spherical, which some people would argue isn't the case, that means Earth's a sphere. That's what he's saying.
He's still got a big problem.
There we go.
It can't be a sphere. It can't be a sphere if their previous claim or their other claim that light is directly reflected off the moon from the sun to us Can't have that. You'd fail 60 level optics. If it's a sphere, you're going to get divergent rays.
Well, no. He immediately appealed to the retro reflectors that were left on the moon by the Apollo missions. So his next statement, you may not have caught it, was to say, well, haven't we got retro reflectors that were left on there? So he's appealing to a trip through the sky vacuum, through Narnia, through the second law of thermodynamics violation, where the rockets can go into that area 10 to the minus 17 tour to get to the moon, but the gas we're breathing doesn't. They wave goodbye at the Kármán line to gas that stops expanding into the space it has available. It just chills out of the Kármán line. They wave goodbye to it, and then they carry on to the moon, drop off the reflectors based on the distances on the assumed R value, and Kepler assuming orbital motion, and Christian Huygens assuming that Venus has the same R value as Earth to give us the distances in their mathematics for the fuel that they're going to burn in the sky vacuum that isn't real. They've left retroreflectors and then got return signals, again, in line with the timings derived by Kepler's third law and Christian Huygens' assumptions of R being the same for Earth as it is for Venus. That's where they get the distances and the timings for the signals that they bounce off the moon and get a return. When they get 1 or 2 photons in the predicted amount of time that the R value would assert they'd get it in, they say, winner, winner, chicken dinner. We've confirmed with the retroreflectors that were left on that light in the sky based on a trip through Narnia. Okay, that's what he's saying. Retroreflectors.
Yeah, that still wouldn't debunk the divergent rays, number one. Number two, they already did that. They didn't leave retroreflectors. They bounced lasers off the moon in 1961. That's purportedly. So why would they need retroreflectors?
Okay, so what QE is saying is that prior to the moon landings, the same bullshit story with the same bullshit return value signal based on R, based on Huygens, based on Kepler, was doled out to the public prior to them having retroreflectors there, with the same mathematics. Now, after the moon landings, that story just had the landings incorporated into it so that the return signal with the bullshit values based on R could then be used to assert that obviously we're only getting this return signal because we've got retroreflectors there, ignoring all assumptions of R in the return signal and how weak or strong the actual photons that they say they're getting back in the time signal they expect are. It just proves that we've been there because we wouldn't get the signal at all if it wasn't for the reflectors. Not true, says QE. They were claiming to be doing this before they even got there in the journey through the sky vacuum that would leave us all dead because we'd have no air to breathe.
It's worse than that, though, because what are they using as a timing factor?
I just covered that.
Claim.
I just covered that. Speed of light, R, Kepler, Huygens. I just covered all that. That includes the two-way speed of light.
Sorry, I didn't hear you say that. Well, just what debunks that is the horizon, because the horizon is not a constant. It's not geometric, which they would need it to be able to even begin to measure if the Earth had an R value and was a sphere.
What do you mean, man? They had their space sex.
Okay. Let's reiterate what Brian's trying to get across. He's saying all the process that I just went through with Huygens and Kepler and the assumptions of Earth having an R value and the assumptions of Venus having the same R value, and then the derivative Kepler's third law mathematics to give you the scales, all of that isn't withstanding the fact that they have to measure R in the first place, which requires a geometric horizon to measure it at. So your dip angle to the horizon in their mathematics is the geometry of Al-Biruni to give them R in the first place. Brian's saying, before we get to any of those assumptions, you're going to need an R measurement because, Venus is going to be assumed to be utilizing that R. Kepler's got your orbital rates using that R. Einstein's giving you the speed of light based on R. Everything's based on R. And you can't measure it at your geometric horizon you thought was bending at altitude in the case of this dude we're covering now. You can't measure R because you don't have a geometric horizon to measure. We've only got one horizon, and the begging the question geometric horizon was debunked in 2020. It's not a physical location to measure to get the R value to make all of these assumptions about orbital motions and Venus and so on. Right, Brian? Where's your R value? You haven't got one. We debunked it. You haven't got a geometric horizon to measure it at.
Even if the horizon fell in line with those mathematical assertions, it would still be below surface level in the math. So, therefore, void.
Correct. That is to say, the horizon you think you're looking at when you see an Earth curve that you're going to claim you can measure or bend when it doesn't bend in the z-axis Well, that's below surface level. The claim of it in the geometry has come from the differential between the surface level and eye level when you're raising altitude. That's all you've got in terms of the mathematical derivation to give you Earth curve. The difference between two flat planes. So then you can put it in maths that shows it below surface level at a tangent point. Well, we don't exist below surface level. It's nonsense. Earth curve isn't real. It only exists in the maths. Oh, in the head of globe believers as well.
And
Can
it
you?
both would be below
Or
surface
should I
level.
I don't know whether you can do that. I don't know whether there's any lasers that maybe you need a really powerful laser. Man, you sound like you are far away, like really far away, like in another country or different side of the the cube. Even it's true, so true, man. It's really, really, it's a problem, right? Check out at NAF Flagrant Paul newest episode on pyramids. Some valid points.
Is this where he's trying to interject that we're claiming shape into the argument by
Well,
giving
I just don't.
cubes
You know, I don't like
Maybe.
things that you can actually observe with your own eye. I've been on a plane. I've looked out. I've seen the Earth curve. Have you, Daz? No, I don't. I didn't make that up. I've actually been inside of a plane and seen the Earth curve. I've watched it for myself. It's fantastic.
No, you haven't.
Poor guy.
So getting z-axis curvature. No, you haven't seen it. You can't see it. It doesn't exist in the z-axis at any altitude that is permissible to you as a general normie. It's even conceded by Neil deGrasse Tyson that at 125,000 feet, that stuff is flat. Your fantasy of seeing z-axis curvature when the horizon is horizontal is nonsense. Meanwhile, we've debunked the assertion that you can see it because it's at 1.2 times the square root of the observer sine feet in your geometry. Not that you'd know that because you're a normie.
Well, that's the debunking of x-axis curvature, right?
Yeah, x-axis curvature is asserted at 1.2 times the square root of the observer sine feet. This numpty saying you can see z-axis curvature at 40,000 feet. Just a numpty. Because he has been on a plane. That's actually true. He has been. Wowee. True, because he went on a plane. That's his standard. I've actually been on it. Wow, so have I. Yeah, when I understood better than he that you can't see that curve that you were trying to look for or claiming that you could actually see, I knew you couldn't and wanted to go higher to see it. And then later was dashed in Neil deGrasse Tyson's estimation because even if I got to the ISS, I still wouldn't see Earth curve in that axis.
It's pretty interesting. I had the same situation happen with a lady I was talking to. She was going to fly back to Hawaii. And she said, yeah, I saw it on the way here. I said, so you're telling me you were on a plane here from Hawaii and you saw Earth curve from your airplane? She goes, yeah. And I go, interesting, because the people who fight for your side say you can't even see it from the ISS. So maybe you should, on your return flight, stop looking through the curvature window and think you're seeing curvature.
I was just going to say, maybe you should ask her, well, before the plane took off, when you were looking through those windows, did the runway look curved? Did anything on the ground look curved from the ground? So then you might have a slight problem.
Yeah. Meanwhile, people's perception of curve through a window or otherwise doesn't change the fact that it's got actual geometry, actual mathematics where it's claimed to be measurable, and we've debunked all of it. So it doesn't matter what this guy perceives to be Earth curve at 40,000 feet as he looks left to right through his window and goes, oh, look, it's curving. Yeah, Dumbo. Okay, whatever. You don't appreciate that you're not supposed to see it at any altitude if you're a globe believer, but you can measure it in a different axis, blocking things in the distance as boats fall over the edge of your Earth. That's what you actually claim in your mathematics. You just don't know because you're a normie. So you think you can see it from 40,000 feet. No one's going to correct you because they'll nod along the other numpties that think they're on a globe. When you say stupid stuff like this, no one will correct you. Oh, yeah, of course you can.
My response to him would be that if he would care to give me the flight, he doesn't have to give me his exact flight, but the same flight that happens on a regular basis, where it goes to, how long it takes to get there. I get the average speed, and I give him the amount of degrees that pilot would have had to account for while flying over this Earth curve he says he's seeing at the window. And I'll also take the direction into account and see how much out rotation the pilot would have had to account for. And then I will show to him how none of that was accounted for. How the pilot flew over a horizontal plane because the lift effect, right, requires the plane's chord line of the wings and the nose to be above horizontal for the plane to fly horizontal. It can't fly right, with 100% positive lift, with the nose and especially the corner and the wings below horizontal. That's called a descent officially.
Fantastic.
The
Right.
plane
You're trying-
Rise up over the the horizon line, which is not a line. It should be called horizon curve.
The horizon,
What did
as
he
in,
say?
he said it should be called the horizon curve. So what, you mean like the etymology of the word horizontal, like horizon? That shouldn't be a geometric principle at all. It should be horizon curve. Okay, dum-dum. Even though you've got your high priests telling us how we won't see z-axis curvature from any altitude ever, you say we should relabel horizontal from the horizon as curved? Wow, that's asinine. Wow, that makes you look really stupid. Wow, did you think you were smart when you were saying that? Did you realise a flat earther like me would come along and say horizon, as in what, horizontal? That's curving, is it? According to you? Yeah, stick to games. You're a gamer, right? Talk about graphics cards. Yeah? Talk about the numbers of clock frequencies. Don't talk about horizontal being bent, because you'll have a flat earther ripping you a new asshole on his live stream with just as many people watching as you have, and making you look stupid, like properly thick. You think the derivation of the horizontal principle, that's the horizon, should be referred to as bending? Wow, aren't you thick? Love your show, love your work, really appreciate your work on graphics cards. Just stay out of my subject matter when some numpty comes along that tells you, yeah, of course it's a sphere. Because someone in your chat's pointed out that, no, you can't go to space, they're just dumping all the rockets in the ocean. If they were travelling out to the sky vacuum, so would all the gas we're breathing. But what's that? We should think horizontal bends? No, numpty. Yeah, horizontal's horizontal. The horizon's horizontal. That's what it is. Not bending because you thought you could see it out your bent plane window at 40,000 feet. I'm afraid not.
The geometric horizon still exists in the math, though.
Not bending in the z-axis, it don't. Ever. You'll never see it, ever, in any geometric mathematics that assert Earth's a sphere. What he thinks he can see is never calculable, ever.
Arwen's statement's incomplete as well. The geometric horizon only exists in the math below surface level.
Correct.
Shout
Yeah,
out
but that
to
would
Paper
require
Towel Earth.
further interest as to the reality of it, right?
Well, the reality is we've got
They
surface
just
level.
got their math, so they don't need to know those details.
Well, the details include surface level. John's right. When you make the complete statement, the geometric horizon only exists in the maths below surface level. When you say, well, that's incomplete, or we need to know more information about what the surface level is, well, it's level. It's the surface. What do you want? It's all reference to that in terms of the height of the mountains and the valleys.
Yeah, and it's parallel to eye level.
Parallel with the horizon. Exactly. Don't rumpus him. He's got all the hottest
It's
points.
all bent in space-time.
No, Benton is horizontal, according to this guy.
You don't know if it's not bent in space-time.
What, horizontal?
You can't get
What,
there.
horizontal, like the horizon? Horizontal. I'm pretty sure I know what that means.
I've watched that happen. Yeah, with my own two fucking eyes. I believe what I see, what's observable with my own two eyes. Yeah.
All right, you believed wrong, didn't you? You were led astray because you think horizontal bends.
And that's the reality.
What kind of shrooms were on that airplane flight that were served? I watched that happen.
Yeah, someone
If-
slips.
if-
Get me those flight
If he,
details.
hang on, let me finish. If he watched it happen, that should be a repeatable instance consistently by everybody everybody else who has two eyes.
This is where Earth curve exists in geometric Muppet vision, where you see the side of your own head. Yeah, this when you look up what Earth curve actually is, it ain't bending horizons, your plane window. This is Earth curve in the geometric assertion in Muppet vision. You see the side of your own head. You see a curved edge that's not the horizon, and a single point that blocks your view, marked with an X labelled horizon in the geometric Earth curve maths. When you see the side of your own head and the target simultaneously. Yeah, not a perspective view like you get out your eyeballs. Maybe I should put it in language that this guy can understand. We don't see the side of our head with our fucking eyeballs. But that's where Earth curve exists, mate, like this. Yeah, when you see the side of your own head. Now, if you'd have looked at what Earth curve was, you'd know that. You don't. You think you see it out of your plane window bending on the z-axis because you're a numpty who hasn't got a vague idea about what he's even asserting when you challenge people in your chat who know more than you do, in this case Shelley, who point out you can't take rockets to space. There isn't such a place. They just dump them in the ocean. Nothing else they can do with them. They dump them in the Bermuda Triangle and tell you to be scared of it.
I've watched things appear over the horizon line. I've watched that happen.
Over the horizon line? All right. What, a dissolution point where things become too small to see? You've seen things appear over that, what, with an assumption that they came into view above a theoretical geometric sphere edge horizon in Muppet Vision Earth curve maths? No, my friend. No, there's this thing called perspective, right? Now, it doesn't have any considerations in Earth curve mathematics, but I'm going to break it down for you in nice and simple terms for not an Apple fan. Imagine we've got two cows. Now, one is a toy cow that's quite close to us, and the other cow is 5 miles away. Now, let me guess, is the cow 5 miles away that's big, visible, or is it too small to see? Oh, that's right. The cow that's far away is too small to see. Now, is that because it's gone over an edge? Oh, right. Now, in this maths, this is the cow. Unless, of course, we can see it, then we'll bring it back with refraction. But let's just pretend that this is a cow, and this is you with the vision of your own head, and this is Earth curve, right? So the cow 5 miles away has just gone behind Earth curve, right? No. The cow has got too small to see. But in Earth curve maths, the cow will be given to you in a feet and inches value that doesn't change with distance. So by scale, I can put a cow on an Earth curve edge, obscured by a hill it's fell over, with you in Muppet Vision, and say that this cow has got the bottom of its feet blocked by Earth curve. And it doesn't matter that by scale, this is about 7,000 miles away from the dude you can see the side of his own head. Doesn't matter by scale, because it's always going to be a 5-foot cow and a 6-foot man at any distance. That's how Earth curve maths works. It makes people like this exclude the fact that things get smaller into the distance when they say they've seen things come over the hill that is blocking their view. Nah, as you get closer to things, they get bigger. They disappear at the horizon. It's called the vanishing point. What, you think it's only because a geometric hill gets in the way? You think boats only fall over the edge when they're getting smaller and smaller and smaller? No, my friend, that's stupid numpty vision.
Hashtag shit shrinks.
Yeah, hashtag shit shrinks. This cow is small. That cow is far away. It's not Earth curve. It's just got too small. It's called perspective. It's completely ignored in your Muppet Vision Earth curve maths, where you think you're on a sphere, because the Roman Catholic Church decided that.
Yeah, we're finished, boys. That's it. Go
to space. You're finished because you've got a fundamentalist religious belief. You appealed at the beginning of this little stint to people who believed in Jesus raising men from the dead and turning water into wine. In other words, you appealed to a religious faith that people hold, that you wanted to pour scorn on. Meanwhile, the Roman Catholic Church gave you orbital motion, a sphere Earth derived from elevation angle measurements taken off a flat plane, and Venus being the same size as Earth. All of those things have come directly from the Roman Catholic Church to give you an estimation of when Easter will be in your little globe religion. Isn't it shocking that your notions of Earth having the moon, a sphere, fall around it, and Earth being a sphere falling around the sun is directly as a result of the church needing to know when Easter is? That shock you? Because that's the only reason you think you're standing on a sphere, because the Roman Catholic Church have told you to believe it. You religious fundamentalist zealot who's bought what the church told you. Facts, my friend, facts. Yeah, one more thing. Gravity's not a force and hasn't been for 108 years, while you doggedly tell your audience that you know in this belief you have that's out of date by 108 years, when it's actually the bending of a fabric of time that we don't experience in any physical means. It's in a pseudo-geometry. labelled pseudo-Riemannian force space-time by Einstein. Just invented it. That's what gravity is currently, my friend. It doesn't force gas to go down, go boom boom, to let you have your sky vacuum to travel to your sphere-shaped moon, to give you your retroreflectors. Meanwhile, Earth's sphere edges don't block the sun or boats. And you haven't seen Earth curve from a plane. I'm pretty sure I covered everything you covered at the end of your fallacious little exercise of claim making when you don't have the slightest clue about any of this subject. You do know a lot about graphics cards. I trust you when you say that the 4070 Ti is a load of old garbage and it hasn't got a high enough bus bandwidth. Yeah, 192, I agree, it's garbage. They're ripping us off. And as for 8 gig on all the other cards, I totally agree, your disdain is justified. But when it comes to Earth curve and your religious belief, yeah, you're better off not covering any of these things again, because you'll have me, a flat earther, who's a fan of not an Apple fan, telling you how ludicrous your assertions are. I will do something that I don't typically do with most of the people I respond to. I normally say this with an air of sarcasm. But in this regard, if you are a computer fan and you want to know what's good value and where the computer industry are ripping off the general public with the parts that they sell, he is an authority on that. He's not the most subscribed to, but he does his research and knows his stuff. And I do take what he says with a pinch of salt also, but nevertheless, he's well researched. And I would suggest that you go and check him out and even subscribe to him if you're in the mildest bit interested in tech, because he's amusing, he's a good character, he's a good YouTuber, he deserves a lot more subscribers. So I'm hoping that you will, in all sincerity, go to his channel and say, actually, Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me and said you're really good with tech and you know your stuff. But he also responded to you about your flat earth claims you made at the end of the last live stream. You might not enjoy the response you get. But I have subscribed, so hopefully you'll up his numbers. And like always, if he was to do a response or say, oh, thanks, I didn't realise the sky vacuum was a entropy violation, then obviously I'd hope he'd put a link in my video, even though he's probably about the same size as I am. Nevertheless, or is he? Is he bigger than me? Let's have a quick look. Can't quite see. 36k. He's a bit bigger than I am. Anyway, yeah, definitely put a link to my video if you do make a response then, as you've got more subs than I have. Not an Apple fan. Any other last comments on that? Because I think that's the last of his outro. He just ends his stream here.
Don't believe any theories that are made up in the internet.
Well, like gravity, not a theory. Definitely made up. Go on, sorry.
Well, I was going to say is people should go and just subscribe to him, and by subscribing to him, leave a comment to say you have subscribed. You can unsubscribe another time if you're not interested. But leave a comment to say you have subscribed, and the reason you subscribed is because of this show, because of you, Nathan, and you've responded to some of the things he has said at the end of his live stream there. At the end of his live stream that were directed towards the natural earth and what it is and what it's not.
And also take into consideration that he's not covering this subject other than the fact that Shelley went in and started trolling him. Not even trolling him, just disagreeing with one of his assertions about rockets going into a sky vacuum. And I would have done the same, as much as it would probably peeve me that I'd cover something that I've not intended to come and talk about. When you're there, obviously watching, not an Apple fan, you're not there because you want to troll them about flat Earth. Quite the contrary for me personally. I'm there because I want to hear about graphics cards. That's it. So yeah, check him out. Let him know. Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me. I'll just see if there's any last words on this video, actually, Brian. There might be a couple more things. I think he just signs off, though.
Or anything a guy called David Icke says. Don't believe a word he says either, right? Yeah.
What?
I'll talk to you later, boys. Dad's gonna press his button. Stop streaming. Thanks, everyone, for the donos. You're all amazing. Love you. Bye-bye, 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 bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Dude, he's a mainstream numpty.
He's right about that. David Icke's a space.
Oh, yeah, sure he is. Yeah.
Hang on. No, hang on.
He's a mainstream numpty.
I'm missing the.
I bet he believes in a certain event that happened in 2001 too. The mainstream story about that. I bet he believes in that.
Correct.
Yeah, but who cares?
Who cares?
You're missing the point.
So what?
Yeah, who cares? So what? You're missing the point. He just said, "Don't believe anything that David Icke said." Now, David Icke has nothing to do with this topic. He only broached it one time in a video, saying he doesn't know what the Earth is. So he's not connected to us, but he has made predictions that they come true. He predicted that certain people were doing bad things, certain celebrity people in Britain and people involved in government in Britain and the US, and it was proven that they were. So if the state don't believe anything he has to say, that's a false statement because he has proven himself to be correct. He still has nothing to do with us all.
He's a numpty.
The interesting thing about that is the conspiratorial side, right? Where you take that and say the reason he could know that is there's this conspiracy and he's just guessing the moves of it. But if you follow the logic out, if there was this huge secret conspiracy that he's publicly speaking about, why haven't they killed him? And there's only two reasons. One, he's actually helping them by saying the idiotic shit that he does alongside the correct assertions he makes, which would make him at least complicit or complacent to it, or he's wrong.
Or three, they don't actually kill people that talk stories like that at all.
Or he's trying to lump David.
Do you know
Icke
any
with us.
actual example, real world example of somebody that is blatantly gotten killed because he leaked something really dark about somebody else?
Yeah, there's this guy in John Wick, definitely caught a few bullets because of that. I'm almost certain of it. But with that, I'm going to say if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Premiering streams, then stay tuned as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, though, if you are watching this live, this is where we bid you farewell. So another massive thank you to both Discord and G+ panels. Thank you to all of you who smashed the super chat, liked, commented, shared, subscribed, and all that good stuff. I've been Nathan Oakley. Once again, stay tuned if you're watching on after show, and I'll see you all in the next video.
What a lovely day!